I'm going to say something that annoys the internet prepper crowd. The smartest food stockpiles I've seen lately aren't flashy. They're quiet, they're boring, and they're built around one question I ask every time I'm in a store. If prices jump 30% and the shelves thinned out for a month, what would my family still eat without complaining? Because that's the trap. Most people stock survival food they don't actually cook. Then the first stressful week hits, everyone's tired, and the pantry becomes a museum. I've watched friends buy a $180 bucket of meals, open it once, and then quietly admit, yeah, we're not eating that. Meanwhile, the boring foods get used every week, and that's what keeps your stockpile alive. So here's what I'm seeing serious practical preppers quietly stacking before 2026. 10 foods that cover calories, protein, and sanity. I'll give you the exact prices I'm paying right now, the amounts I keep at home, how I store them, and the math that makes these worth it even if nothing dramatic happens. And yes, some of these are so unsexy you'll roll your eyes, right up until they're the only thing you can still afford. Quick heads up, prices vary by region and week. I'm using the price ranges I've personally seen recently in big box stores and warehouse clubs. Don't panic buy. Just buy with a plan. If past patterns hold, the calm buyers win because they buy when shelves are full, not when everyone's elbows are out. All right, item one is the backbone, white rice. Everyone talks about protein, but calories are what keeps your engine running, and rice is still one of the cheapest, cleanest calories left. I'm regularly seeing a 20-pound bag of long-grain white rice around $11.98 to $16 depending on brand and store. Let's do the boring math. 20 pounds is 320 ounces. At $11.98, that's about 3.7 cents per ounce. Cooked, 1 ounce of dry rice becomes ruffle, 3 ounces cooked. So that 20-pound bag turns into a mountain of food, easily 200 plus half-cup cooked servings. Here's why preppers quietly love rice. It's neutral. It doesn't require fancy seasoning to be edible. It pairs with literally everything. And during every weird little supply hiccup I've lived through, rice stays on the people suddenly want this list. My personal stockpile, I keep 75 pounds of white rice as deep storage, plus another 20 pounds in the kitchen as rotation. That's not apocalypse talk. That's my family eats rice twice a week, and I don't want to pay premium prices when it spikes. And because cooking fuel matters, I've tested rice on 3 setups: electric rice cooker, stovetop, and a small butane burner. The butane burner version took about 18 minutes at a gentle simmer, and it used less fuel than a long bean cook. That test changed how I plan meals during outages. Storage is dead simple if you respect 2 enemies, moisture and heat. I store my deep rice in thick Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers inside 5-gallon food-grade buckets. I write the month and year with a marker and stack them off the concrete floor. If you don't want to do the whole bucket system, at minimum keep it in sealed containers and away from humid laundry rooms and hot garages. Cool and stable wins. My rule is closer to 75 degree F than 95 degree F because heat quietly chews up shelf life. Item 2 is the thing people buy wrong and then swear off forever. Dry beans, specifically pinto beans. I'm seeing 25-pound bags around $11.49 to $14.39 in warehouse stores when they're in stock. That's 400 ounces. Even at $14.39, you're paying about 3.6 cents an ounce for a food that brings protein, fiber, and minerals to the table. But the real reason beans matter is what they do to your overall pantry math. If you have rice without beans, you have calories. If you have beans with rice, you have a complete meal pattern you can repeat for months without falling apart. I learned beans the hard way. A few winters back, we had a power outage, and the roads were iced over. I cooked a big pot of beans on a camp stove on the porch. Not glamorous, but it fed us and 2 neighbors who had nothing but snack food. The lesson wasn't be a hero. The lesson was beans are cheap insurance when normal convenience disappears. And I also learned the fuel lesson. If you don't soak, you pay for it. A simple overnight soak cut my cooking time almost in half. Here's how I make beans actually work in a real family. I do a 45-day rotation test every year. I'll cook beans twice a week for a month and a half, chili one night, refried beans another, bean soup with rice another, and I track what gets eaten and what gets pushed around the bowl. When you test it like that, you find the seasoning blends your family will tolerate, and you stop wasting money on food that looks good on a shelf but fails in a pot. My no-drama blend is salt, cumin, garlic, and a splash of vinegar at the end. My stockpile amount, 60 pounds of dry beans total, mostly pinto, with some black beans for variety. Storage approach. I keep half in the bucket and Mylar deep system and half in airtight containers in the pant. Rye for quick use. And I always keep a couple pounds in the kitchen because out of sight equals forgotten. Item 3 is the quiet breakfast king, rolled oats. People underestimate oats because they think it's just oatmeal. Wrong. Oats are breakfast baking thickener, comfort food, and calorie filler. I'm often seeing a 10-pound box or bag of rolled oats under $10 at warehouse clubs, and in regular stores it can be more like $12 to $18 depending on brand. 10 pounds is 160 ounces. At $9.99, you're at about 6.2 cents an ounce. That's still cheap. A family of 4 can easily burn through oats. If each person eats a half cup dry serving 3 mornings a week, that's about 6 cups of dry oats weekly. There are roughly 20 cups in a 10-pound bag, so you're looking at a little over 3 weeks of breakfast per bag. 2 bags covers you for a month and a half, and nobody's crying about eating survival food. I keep 30 pounds of rolled oats in my stash, and I learned one key thing. Oats go stale faster than rice if you store them sloppy. The fats in oats can turn rancid over time, especially in heat. So my method is deep storage in Mylar with oxygen absorbers and rotation stock in sealed containers that I actually use. I don't store oats in a hot shed. That's how you turn money into disappointment. Keeping them fresh is easier than people think. Stable temps and tight lids do most of the work. Item 4 is where people start calling me old-fashioned, and I'm fine with that. Wheat berries. Hard wheat berries are not trendy. They are not convenient. They are also one of the most stable, versatile food insurance policies you can buy. I've paid about $57.95 for a 25-pound bag from a specialty supplier. That's not the cheapest food on this list, but it's an ingredient factory. Let's be completely real here. The crowd chases convenience. Serious preparedness is about capability. If you can grind wheat berries into flour, you can make bread, tortillas, pancakes, thick soups, and stretch whatever protein you have. You're not dependent on the flour aisle being stocked. And long-term storage programs talk about dry staples lasting for years and even decades when moisture stays low and temperatures stay moderate. Math time. 25 pounds is 400 ounces. At $57.95, that's about 14.5 cents an ounce. Sounds high until you translate it into meals. Flour-based foods are multiplier foods. A couple cups of flour becomes a pan of bread that feeds a family, and wheat berries store incredibly well when kept dry and cool. I keep 50 pounds of wheat berries. And yes, I tested it before committing. I spent 2 weeks making one wheat-based item per day, simple flatbreads, basic sandwich loaves, and pancakes, just to prove I could do it without fancy equipment. My grinder is a hand crank model, nothing fancy, and it still worked. That test gave me confidence, and honestly, it humbled me. If you can't process it, it's just a rock in a bucket. So test first. Storage method I use. Wheat berries go in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers inside buckets, labeled and stacked. And I keep a smaller jar in the pantry for practice runs. Skill and storage go together. Item 5 is the one people laugh at until they bake. Powdered milk. I'm seeing instant non-fat dry milk in the 25.6 ounce range, around $8 inch and 18ers, give or take. That's not cheap on a per ounce basis, but it solves a problem. Milk without a fridge. And it supports cooking, baking, sauces, and even just morale. Warm milk with honey when the power's out, that's not extra. That's keeping kids calm. Here's the cost logic. If a carton of fresh milk is $3 to $5 and you lose power, that carton becomes a race against time. Powdered milk doesn't care about your outage, and it lets you keep making foods your family recognizes. Pancakes, biscuits, creamy soups, without relying on refrigerated supply chains. I keep the equivalent of about 12 gallons worth of powdered milk on hand at any time. I store it in its original packaging until opened, then I transfer to airtight jars and use it within a few months. For long term, I keep sealed extra packs in a cooler part of the house, away from stove heat. And I do a simple taste check twice a year. Mix a cup, drink it, bake with it, make sure it's still something my family will tolerate. Prepper food that tastes bad becomes never used food. Item 6 is the no-cook protein that stays cheap longer than most, canned tuna. I'm still seeing multi-packs like 8 cans of 5-ounce tuna around $7.97 in some stores. That's 40 ounces of tuna for under $8, roughly 20 cents an ounce. And the real win is that you can eat it straight, no stove, no fuel. I keep 48 cans of tuna in rotation. That's 4 cases of 12. Why that number? Because it gives us options. Tuna salad, tuna with rice, tuna pasta, tuna mixed into beans. And during those weeks when life is chaotic, sick kid, overtime at work, whatever, you can still make something high protein in 5 minutes. Here's a quick comparison that makes people stop scrolling. One fast food combo meal can be $9 on to $13 now. For that same money, you can buy an 8-pack of tuna and a 20-pound bag of rice, and you just bought dozens of meals. Not one. That's not fear. That's math. Storage-wise, canned fish is easy. Keep it somewhere dry, away from temperature swings. I don't store cans in a place that freezes in winter and bakes in summer. Labels fade, seals stress, and you're gambling with food. Pantry shelf, closet shelf, stable and boring. Item 7 is the grown-up version of canned fish, sardines. People either love them or think they're punishment. I treat sardines like a nutrition tool. They're dense, they're oily, and they show up with nutrients your body notices when your diet gets boring. I've paid about 26 or 36 cents for a 12-pack, around 4.37 ounces each. That's roughly 52 ounces total, about 50 cents an ounce. Not the cheapest, but the value isn't just calories, it's quality protein and fats. All right, here's what nobody wants to admit. If your pantry is all starch and no fats, you'll feel it. Your energy drops, your mood drops, and meals stop satisfying. Sardines fix that in a compact, shelf-stable way. My stockpile, 24 cans of sardines, always rotating. I don't buy 200 cans. I buy enough that we eat them, replace them, and keep the habit. I learned this from an older neighbor who grew up with rationing stories from his parents. He said the people who did best weren't the people with the biggest piles. They were the people with the most consistent routines. If you're new to sardines, don't force it. Mix them into rice with lemon and salt. Mash them into a spread with mustard. Start small. The goal is edible and useful, not internet brag. Item 8 is the no-energy dinner saver, canned chicken. I'm seeing 12.5-ounce cans around $2.60 in store brands. When you're tired, that can turn rice, beans, or pasta into a meal your family recognizes. And that matters because morale is a real resource. I keep 36 cans of chicken. That's a month of protein add-ins if you use 1 can every day or 2. And yes, it costs more than dry beans. That's the point. This is your convenience buffer when life gets messy. Here's the per meal math I use. 1 can of chicken at $2.62 plus 1 cup dry rice at roughly 20 to 30 cents gives you a big pot that can feed 4 people. Add a can of tomatoes or some seasoning and you're still under $1 per person for a filling meal. Compare that to a $4 microwave meal that feeds 1 person and leaves you hungry an hour later. Storage approach. I keep canned chicken in the house, not the garage. I also keep a quick meal bin with chicken, rice, seasoning packets, and a small bottle of oil so I don't have to think when I'm stressed. Thinking is expensive during a disruption. Item 9 is the morale and trade sweetener, honey. Honey is one of those foods that behaves differently than most. It can crystallize, it can thicken, but it doesn't spoil the way fresh foods do when it's stored correctly. I'm not promising forever, I'm saying it's historically valued for stability, and that's why it belongs in a prep pantry. I keep 12 pounds of honey total, 6 pounds in the kitchen for daily use, and 6 pounds sealed as backup. Here's how I use honey strategically. A tablespoon in oats makes a boring breakfast feel normal. Honey in tea when someone's sick keeps spirits up. And honey is one of those things people will want even when they're not sure what else to want. Cost-wise, honey varies wildly. You might pay $10 to $18 for a 3-pound jug depending on brand and season. That feels pricey until you realize how little you use per serving. If a 3-pound jug is 48 ounces and you use 1 tablespoon, about 0.7 ounces per bowl of oats, you're getting roughly 68 servings out of that jug. Even at $15, that's about 22 cents per serving for a morale booster. Worth it. Storage tip: keep honey sealed, out of heat. If it crystallizes, warm the jar in hot water. Item 10 is the least sexy and the most powerful: sugar and salt. People skip these because they think that's not survival food. That's a mistake. Sugar and salt are tools. They preserve, they flavor, they make simple foods edible long term. And according to common shelf life guidance like the USDA's Food Keeper, items like sugar can basically sit there forever if kept dry. My stockpile is simple: 25 pounds of white sugar and 12 pounds of salt. Why? Because sugar stretches baking, preserves fruit, and makes bitter foods toll. Arable: salt is essential for flavor, hydration strategies, and food preservation. If you ever try to eat beans without enough salt for 2 weeks, you'll understand why salt is not optional. And here's your last recheck point. You now know 10 items that can cover the majority of your calories and protein for a fraction of what people spend on ready meals. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes. Retailers and brands chase profit margins. When costs rise, they shrink sizes, they change ingredients, and they quietly discontinue the bulk options that help families the most. That's not a conspiracy, that's business incentives. The defense is simple: buy what stores well, buy what you actually eat, and build a pantry that makes you less dependent on whatever decision a corporate buyer makes next quarter. So let me land this without the doom music. The fundamental difference between panic buyers and prepared families comes down to habits. Prepared families buy boring food with boring math, store it in boring ways, and rotate it like adults. Panic buyers wait until the crowd is sprinting and then pay the worst price for the worst options. If you can only do one thing from this video, do this. Pick 2 staples, rice and beans is the easiest, and buy enough for 14 days for your household. Then store it in one consistent system. 2 containers, labeled, off the floor, away from heat. That's it. You don't have to buy everything at once. Start small. This week, pick 3 items from this list and add 1 deep storage unit of each. Next week, do 3 more. In a month, you've built a cushion without wrecking your budget. If this gave you practical information you can actually use, hit the like button. It helps this kind of no-nonsense content reach people before the next price jump does. Subscribe if you want more calm, real-world prepping that works in normal life. And drop a comment telling me which item you already stock and which one you've been avoiding. The avoided one is usually the one that saves you later. Next week, I'm breaking down the 3 pantry items people think are long-term, but actually cost you the most in waste. Trust me, you don't want to miss that.